Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Paul Rasta, Executive Editor of Multi-Housing News. We're delighted to have all of you in the audience with us today. You're going to hear about a step by two leading companies that has major implications for all multifamily operators and property managers. You'll get to meet today's special guests in just a moment, but first let me take this opportunity to give a shout out to our partners and co-sponsors in today's program, Dwelo and Vivint. A couple of housekeeping notes. We've left time at the end of the program for audience Q&A. So if you've got a question for our guests, please use the Q&A function on your screen to send it in. We'll get to as many questions as we can, but if time runs out before we get to your question, or if you'd rather connect confidentially, our guests will be happy to follow up with you after the program. If you're a Vivint customer and have any specific questions about how this change will affect your service or your property, I'll encourage you to contact your Vivint Client Success Manager directly. Also, we will be emailing everyone in the audience a link to this webinar, which will be posted later on multihousingnews.com. Now, let me introduce today's special guests. Michael Ravito is the CEO of Dwelo, and Tom Few is the Senior Vice President of Business Development at Vivint Smart Home. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you with us.
Hi, Paul. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Now, as I mentioned, Dwelo and Vivint are taking a step that has far-reaching implications for home technology across the multifamily industry. So let's turn to these two executives who are leading this change. Tom Few, tell us what led to Vivint's decision to exit the multifamily sector.
Sure, thanks, Paul. Just a little history on Vivint. Vivint's a 22-year-old company. We're the largest smart home provider in North America, and we really pride ourselves on innovation. And so my job at Vivint in business development is to try to figure out new channels for us to expand our growth and outreach. So over the years, we've built a commercial division. We built an insurance division and a wireless internet division. And some of them are adjacent to the core and some aren't. The multifamily was an interesting one. We are a really, really excellent B2C kind of company. We've been very successful doing it. It's a little bit different in the multifamily world. It's, in my view, a B2B2C and built a little differently than what our core competencies were. And so we have focused up until this time mostly on single family homes. And there's only about 20% saturation in the market for that. And understanding the margins that we have in a single family home versus the multifamily homes, we felt like, hey, we should reallocate our resources to go back to our core to grow what we're really strong at. So we went into this process, a vetting process of about a half a dozen potential suitors, and we were able to successfully find an exit for the business.
Well, thank you very much for that, Tom. And Mike Ravito, let me turn to you. First of all, for the benefit of those in our audience who may be getting to know Dwelo for the first time, what can you tell us about your company, first of all? And second, what would you like Vivint customers to know?
Sure. Thanks, Paul. And hello, everyone. Mike Ravito, CEO of Dwelo. Dwelo is a smart apartment platform company, a full service smart apartment platform company. We were started back in 2015. We were really the first full smart apartment company in the industry. Our first full buildings went up in the summer of 2015, are still going strong today. We've got over 100 customers from coast to coast, all of them multifamily. That focus on multifamily is a key aspect of our strategy. It's enabled us to develop a true end-to-end smart apartment platform with great service associated with it. So when I say end-to-end, what I mean is smart home for the residents, utility management and leak detection for the owners. We have perimeter and community access modules, not just access at the unit door, property management software integrations, self-touring, and on and on. So we're able to help owners and managers both generate more revenue as well as operate their communities more efficiently with that sort of one hand to shake approach where they get a one-stop shop with us. In addition, the focus on multifamily in our history and just sort of the way we've come to market really has led to us to have what we consider to be top-notch, really superior in the industry support from project conception all the way through to supporting residents and managers. We really pride ourselves on ensuring our customers' success that begins with scoping and design, really thoughtful implementation. We're on time, we're on budget. That's really core to who we are, as we deliver on the promises that we make to our customers, all the way down to residents getting excellent customer service from us as well. I'll say one last thing. And I guess, you asked the question, what does this mean for those Vivint customers coming over? I think two things. Number one, Vivint, from their roots in single family, have a similar mentality and ethos, which I think is part of why there was an alignment here, where customer success, excellence in service, full service nature was really part of how they came to market. So they're going to get that same mentality from us at Dwelo. And they're also going to get a multifamily focused provider who has invested in innovation in things that are really specific to multifamily, like property management, software integrations, and we have a full roadmap of further innovation coming down the pike that are it's going to generate more return on investment for those customers around operational savings and things that are specific to the multifamily context. And the last thing I'll just say about this deal and getting the opportunity to work with Tom and the folks at Vivint, we're a Utah-based company, very familiar with Vivint, obviously a Goliath, largest smart home provider in North America, as Tom mentioned, names on the basketball arena in Utah. And so we've been familiar with Vivint since our inception, and look to them for inspiration on a lot of things, and a lot of ex-Vivint folks at Dwelo over the years. And so for us to be able to take this on and sort of carry the torch for Vivint, it's a big milestone for us. It's going to put us over 100,000 units in the multifamily industry, which is a really exciting milestone as well. So this is a big deal for Dwelo, and helps sort of solidify and cement our place in industry overall.
Well, let me drill down into this just a little bit more and turn to you, Tom. So when Vivint decided to take this new direction, why did you decide that Dwelo was the best candidate to take the baton and continue what Vivint started? I'd like to get your perspective on this. For example, do Vivint and Dwelo bring any previous history to the table, for example? What was it that led to the decision that Dwelo was really the best fit for your customers and your mission?
Yeah, so we had a pretty lengthy vetting process and went through some significant due diligence. We're probably about a half a dozen providers that probably a lot of people know on this call. But what people don't know is we've always had a really healthy relationship. We probably met the first time before Vivint was actually in the business, where I decided to go into business. Here in my office at the Innovation Center, I'm guessing 5 or 6 years ago. What else people don't understand is we've had like collaborative meetings together about how to go and win in this industry. So we've always had a healthy relationship. That, coupled with them being our backyard, having the same kind of values and point of view on our customers, and the transition with our teams being so close, we literally throw a football to each other. It just, everything synced, everything worked. Like the protocols that they're using is the protocols that we're using. Their roadmap is stronger than ours in its current state and moving forward. And like, as a publicly traded company, we have to show significant earnings, and being that we're only serving 20% of the single family homes, we needed to find a home for these customers. We wanted to make sure we found the right home that was going to treat them the right way and be able to work with me and my team to have a seamless transition, so it was the best thing for them. What I didn't want to do is I didn't want to have a situation where we were going to provide services for a period of time and then just shut it down. We value our customers way too much for that. And I think, this deal with Dwelo helps Dwelo as well. I think it bolsters them, and it should, in this industry as the leader. And so those all came into consideration when we made this decision, and I think we made the best decision.
Yeah, I'll add to that, Paul, just to say, I think, building on what Tom was just saying there around protocols and so forth, the technological alignment, I think, was key for us, in addition to the sort of values and culture alignment. So when we looked at it, we wanted to make sure that we would be able to provide continued service with, relatively limited disruption from a hardware perspective. And so when we evaluated the opportunity, looked at it up close, we thought, okay, this is something we can do. Another factor for us, and I think played for Tom as well, is Dwelo has really significant retrofit experience. So to the extent that we're, adjusting things to make sure that it works on a continued basis, go forward with Dwelo equipment and so on and so forth. That's something we do all day, every day, and have done since our first buildings, which is unusual in this market where a lot of the attention and action is in the new construction space, where it takes it to, frankly, it's a lower bar to clear as a provider because it's just an easier environment. So when it comes to retrofits, our over half decade of experience of knowing how to operate in a multifamily context, knowing how to work with managers, knowing how to minimize or eliminate disruption for residents is critical in a takeover situation like this, where we're trying to ensure continued service for all those people and make sure those stakeholders are taken care of. So those were pretty critical factors for us as well. And I think for Tom, as we were evaluating the opportunity mutually.
Yeah, I would add one thing, Mike. What I haven't mentioned yet is, just about every smart home company in the multifamily space has common customers, right? And so Dwelo and Vivint have common customers, and we were able to do some vetting of our own customers as to how is the experience of this company and this company, and then of course Dwelo. And so some of the feedback we got there was also part of the decision making.
So even well beyond the cultural alignment, there are also some very practical considerations as well about Dwelo being able to, again, take the baton and continue to be able to execute the technology seamlessly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, just a reminder to our audience, I'm sure you've got some questions for Tom and Mike, and if you do, please do put them in the Q&A section, and we'll try to get to as many as we can before the end of the program. But I would definitely encourage you to come up with your questions now so that we can give our speakers here a chance to address them in real time, if all possible. So I'd like to take a step back and maybe go even broader with this transition. And if each of you could expand on specifically what this transition means for current Vivint customers, and what each of you would like them to know about what's ahead. And Mike, let me start with you.
Sure.
What would you like Vivint customers to know that they can expect with this transition?
Yeah, first and foremost, they're going to get excellent service from us and sort of continue the tradition of with Vivint service levels when they come over to Dwelo. So they're going to be taken care of from soup to nuts, owners, managers, residents. That's just how we do things. So they can expect that. Number two, from a functionality and product perspective, Dwelo is able to match what Vivint is able to offer, and even offer a couple of things that are specific to multifamily, like property management software integrations that should enable them to achieve the same kind of value propositions they were getting before, self-touring, those sorts of things, and even building on them in some ways with new functionality and taking advantage of the multifamily roadmap that we have. So they're going to get value for their residents, for their managers, and for owners in their pocketbook from an NOI perspective, ROI perspective. So they can expect that. And then I think from a transition perspective, for folks that we've talked to, this is a combination concern or just conversation. Number one, they're interested in understanding what's going to happen with their existing assets that already have Vivint in it. Number two, they want to understand, they all had roadmaps and plans and pipeline of growth of smart technology in their footprint. We're going to be able to handle both of those. So obviously anything that's pressing in the pipeline, you're building something new, you got budget, you want to spend it, retrofits, we can take care of that in short order. We can put together proposals and give them a sense of exactly what they get from Dwelo and how that compares to their experience so far with Vivint. And then when it comes to existing assets, we put together a fairly generous and low friction program to transition those off of the Vivint technology platform on a schedule that makes sense for the customer. So we're able to work with them, customize that to match to their needs. And Vivint is committed to supporting those customers as long as it takes to kind of make those transitions happen. So from the perspective of an existing asset, should be pretty seamless. We'll be able to work that through. There should be no disruption in service, and everybody on the site, whether it's residents or managers, they'll be taken care of, and it will be handled with the appropriate care and caution.
Tom, is there anything that you'd like to add to Mike's comments there?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I think we're a couple months into this transition. What I really like about it is we take great pride in the customer service that we provide to our customers. And part of that is they've committed to me, and we want to maintain our commitment to them. So working with Mike and his team on what that transition looks like. What I don't want to do is have disruption to my customers. So we have collaborated on just about every opportunity that we've talked about so far on how to be as flexible as possible to make the least amount of disruption to our customers, so they have the best experience and seamless transition. So far, I think things have worked extremely well. And I think the fact that Dwelo is willing and Vivint is willing to work together until this is complete, it's really worked well.
It strikes me that this is unquestionably it's a big deal for Dwelo and Vivint, for your two customers, but it's also a big development for the multifamily home technology industry and for the sector as a whole. Is there anything that you would like to share about the significance of this for the multifamily sector as a whole? And
Sure.
You're welcome to address that any way that you would like. But Mike, how about you? What would you say to that?
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, I think it is a marker of the maturation of the industry overall. We're now over half a decade into this. Like I mentioned at the outset, Dwelo was really at the vanguard of this back in 2015 when we started doing it. People were at that point throwing 200 Nest thermostats into a building and had no platform for it. And so things have really evolved from those days, where there's now, over a dozen platform type providers have had to guess that are doing any kind of material business, and probably another couple dozen that are not doing material amounts of business and want to.
Sure.
There was a period of sort of expansion where that number was growing. I remember going to my first OpTech, would probably not have been 2015, but might have been 2016. We were the only smart apartment vendor at the time. And over the years, it's obviously grown. And anybody who just went to NAA, there were a lot of them. There's a lot of smart tech in that space now. So I think we might be reaching a point now, though, where we're reaching kind of max, and now there's going to start to be consolidation. I think folks like Vivint are recognizing, and they're seeing the kind of pace of innovation and the pace of multifamily specific innovation, and correctly recognizing, like, hey, you really got to focus here to be successful. There are other kinds of providers who have a foot in the water when it comes to smart technology in the multifamily space, but maybe their core business is consumer, or maybe their core business is actually sort of software in multifamily and not smart technology and hardware in multifamily, which is a whole other beast. And then you have kind of a handful of providers, Dwelo among them, who are really dedicated to hardware and smart technology in the multifamily space and creating a full service platform, and that are starting to emerge. And you're likely going to see some consolidation around this. This is not going to be the last. It takes a lot to succeed in this industry. And so I think we're going to start to see more of these kind of providers who are partially in say, you know what, we need to be all the way in or all the way out, and see that kind of commitment. And so I think is really what this is a marker of, is that transition point. And I'm just excited, for Dwelo, that we're able to kind of be in the middle of that, and we're a credible consolidator and a safe landing spot for such a, storied and important smart home provider as Vivint. I mean, it really means a lot for us to be selected to do that, and is indicative of Dwelo's position in the industry as well.
And Tom, I'd like to hear from your perspective on the same topic. What you feel that this step by both of your major companies tells us about the direction of smart tech in multifamily.
Yeah, I think Mike's right. There was an IHS white paper that went out about 2 years ago. It showed all the people who are in space, all the companies that are in space. Very fragmented, a lot of startups, and I think the space has matured. And to Mike's point, I think we've seen this with some other companies in their mergers or acquisitions, that there's growth and consolidation here. And I think 1 + 1 = 3. It's notable to say that this relationship is ongoing, right? There's opportunities for Dwelo to work with Vivint, help grow Vivint as we transition our multifamily book of business over to them. And then there's other things that we've agreed to do long term that in turn can reciprocate single family opportunities. And so I think, again, to Mike's point, growth through consolidation. I think the leaders are emerging. And I think you're right as well. Those who are not all the way in need to make the decision, go all the way in and find the funding to do it, or they probably need to do some kind of an acquisition or exit.
One last item on that Tom nudged for me was a reminder. One of the interesting things about this for us was getting to pull back the curtain with another vendor. Not often. I mean, we were for years doing hand-to-hand combat in the trenches, right, as competitors, and not often that you get this opportunity to kind of really show each other your products, talk strategy. What's your experience been? Why are you doing this? What are your customers telling you? What are our customers telling us? And kind of not only consolidate units and technology and all that kind of stuff, but consolidate knowledge, because this is a very dynamic space. A lot of different perspectives, different owners, different thoughts, different pockets, different kinds of owners, business models, et cetera, asset classes, so on. So what I found almost as beneficial to our business as the kind of, just raw, revenue and unit counts and customer relationships, all those are great things. But what was really important was learning and being able to share that stuff, and now having a partner, and we 2 great R&D teams working on different roadmaps, learnings, all those kind of things. That is going to redound to the benefit of both the Vivint customers and Dwelo customers going forward.
Absolutely.
Well, that certainly is really a great opportunity for this kind of collaboration between your 2 teams, and maybe something we don't always see in this business every day. Well, let's turn to a few questions now, and our audience member would like to know something a little bit more on the technical side. So one of you would like to address it. That's great. How do you ensure protection of the equipment, and are media panels used to house equipment?
Good question. So the equipment is obviously varied. I mean, a lot of it is stuff that you interact with on a regular basis, light switches, locks, et cetera. So some of it's just out in the open. It's the nature of the beast. When it comes to the connectivity piece, we try to put our connectivity hub kind of out of sight, out of mind, just better that way, fewer hands on it. But ultimately that stuff is in a secured space. It's in a unit. So the one person who would have access to it is the resident whose unit it is. And so we've found that that's fairly secure.
And speaking of equipment, Mike, let me address this one to you as well. Does Dwelo provide proprietary hardware or software or both? And how about that?
Yeah, we consider ourselves an open platform. We do have that proprietary connectivity hub just because there isn't sort of a third-party option for that. But in every other dimension, when it comes to hardware, we're working with leading brands, thermostats, light switches, locks, from folks like Kwikset and Yale, Honeywell and Nest, et cetera, so that our customers can benefit from best of breed and have access to all kinds of equipment. It would be difficult for us to build an amazing everything. So we work with those folks who focus on that day in and day out and who do an amazing job at that. so that we can deliver the best sort of hardware experience. When it comes to software, we have a combination of proprietary interfaces as well as integrations with third parties, right? So we obviously have our own resident app that delivers a fantastic experience, but those residents can also integrate with their preferred consumer interface if they want to. They can pull all of the Dwelo hardware into with one integration, very simple, with one login to their Amazon Alexa, their Google Home, etc. And then for the property managers, although there are certain things that it's not possible to do in your Yardi or your Real page that you can do in Dwelo, sort of managing vendor access or things of that nature. A lot of the main stuff, the self-touring leads funnel back to their CRM or their lead management software. The move-ins and move-outs are handled through an integration with their core rent roll software. So although we do have kind of our proprietary software that is an administrative plane that enables them to do a certain amount of stuff, we're pretty integrated into the broader ecosystem of software that they use on a day-to-day basis, so they don't have to spend a ton of time in the Dwelo web app unless they have something very specific they're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, they're able to stay in the interfaces that they use on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And this next one as well, I think I'm going to address to you.
Okay.
So our audience member wants to know, I can understand why smart home tech, is appealing to residents, but what about NOI? Do you have any real world examples of making a positive impact in that area?
Yeah, sure. So obviously NOI is it's a compound metric to take your revenue, you less out your costs. So I'll just briefly acknowledge we do drive higher revenue. So the rent lift is a part of it. It's appealing to residents. They pay more, $25, $35, $45 per unit per month. We see that consistently across metros, across asset classes. In addition, with self-touring and the ability to get prospects in at times when they otherwise would have not been captured, right? You can actually drive faster leasing velocity. So you end up at a lower vacancy equilibrium because the period of time that units are vacant is shorter because you're capturing more prospects by not enabling them to come when they want to come and tour the way they want to tour. So you're actually closing more leases with fewer man hours spent from leasing staff. On the pure cost side of the ledger, there's a number of ways that we're impacting operational expenses. We see our managers self-report hundreds of man hours of time savings just from keyless access alone, digital access instead of having to deal with key track machines on a day-to-day basis. We have a great study and program that we did with Conservice, the large multifamily utility billing provider, where we analyzed bills for vacant units and found that we can save almost half, 47%, I believe is the number, of energy costs in vacant units when our utility management suite is applied to them. Those automations to turn things off when the unit is vacant at the end of the day. And then even things like leak detection, right? In the first week that we launched leak detection in our first community, we were able to detect and, you can't prevent a leak, but you can mitigate the damage from it. So by catching that quickly, you're able to avoid costs. The average community has 4 leaks per year, and those costs on average, I think it's $12,000 a leak. And that's driven in large part by the long tail or, the few that are really big. And so if you can get out ahead of those, you can materially impact your NOI as well from that perspective. I can go on, but that's sort of a good lay of the land of the types of ways that smart technology can interact with the NOI and the P&L of a given community.
Great. Well, thank you for that insight, Michael. Well, it looks like that we are just about out of time for today. But before we go, let me once more give great thanks to Mike Ravito of Dwelo and Tom Pugh of Vivint for this highly informative conversation, for sharing the insights about this transition between the two companies. And of course, we're also our co-sponsors for today. And most of all, thanks to everyone in our audience for listening in. We hope that you will join us again soon for another MHN webinar, and have a great day.